Hey guys, welcome back to Creating Creators Podcast. I'm Brian Pope, and on this episode, I had a chance to sit down and talk to Aaron Spigner. Aaron owns a videography company in Birmingham, Alabama called Air7 Media. Aaron shared with us sort of his journey into videography, specifically how he worked for ESPN for quite a few years as a replay operator. He also shared with us his journey to starting Air7 Media and sort of the type of work that he's done over the years, as well as current projects. I really enjoyed talking to Aaron. I enjoyed learning so much from him and about him, and I think you'll enjoy it as well. Check it out. To it. So Aaron, is it Spigner? Is that how you say it?
It's Spigner.
Okay.
You can say it however you want, and I'll answer to it because no one ever gets it right. So I'm just yes.
Well, okay. Well, Aaron Spigner, I appreciate you being on this episode of Creating Creators Podcast. And let's go ahead and just jump into a little bit about you. So we'll have these slides throughout that I'll reference. I'll try not to reference them too much, but at the same time, they sort of help me stay on pace. But
for sure,
let's go ahead and start with you telling me who is the real Aaron Spigner.
Well, let's see. I'm a husband, a dad, a follower of Christ, a creative, a entrepreneur, and I'd like to say a good friend.
Nice. Do you care to justify any of these pictures? Primarily this main center one or the lower one there.
The sushi one?
Is that what that? Yes. Sushi. Yeah.
We're eating sushi. I don't know. That probably was, so back in the day, they used to have in Birmingham when sushi wasn't a huge thing yet, they had a thing called midnight sushi. And this one restaurant at night would start serving sushi at 12 o'clock. And so you had to be outside waiting. And so I think that's from Midnight Sushi when they brought out the sushi roll. And I was very excited, as you can tell.
I love sushi. I hope that I would be just as excited for mine.
Yeah. So. And that had to be college because I was like I buzzed my hair. And that was like, it was just growing back. So good times.
Yeah, be careful buzzing your hair. It doesn't always grow back.
Yeah. You speak from experience?
I know from experience a little bit. So, well, tell me a little bit about how you got involved in videography. And I'd love to get from the beginning, which I think from what I understand goes pretty far back. So I'd love to get from the beginning up till now with Air7 Media. And I'd love to hear your story about it.
Okay, so it's pretty long. Are you sure you really want to go down this rabbit hole? I'll try to keep it short just because there's so many chapters and I don't know how long we really want to spend on that.
Yeah, well, I would love to hear it. And then also if you can like chapter it up, I might be able to ask some questions in between, or I may say, keep going. So.
Okay. Well, I will say that I found a passion for film and media and video editing when I was very young, probably back in middle school, when like it was a point in time where everyone was transitioning from like cutting tape to digital, and you could actually ingest your footage onto a computer. And before that, like it was just I don't know how you did it because I never did that. So like I'm not going to speak to those guys, but major props to them because there's a real art form there.
I completely agree. Anytime I talk about like the old way of doing things, which I have no experience in either, it blows my mind that people actually worked with film and cassettes and like how did you ever edit that stuff?
Yeah. I don't think I would have a job because I wouldn't have the patience for it if that was how I had to do it. So when I was very young, one of my friends who we'll say was fairly wealthy, he got a computer and a camera that we could film stuff and we could put it on his computer and we could cut it together and make stories and whatever we wanted. And at that time, Jackass was really big. And so we started doing stupid, I'm going to call them stunts. And just like made up our own dumb thing. And so like that was probably where I got started of like, oh, this is really cool. We can capture moments and piece them together. Then a lot of that happened, and then we fast forward to high school, and I started working in the mass communication department. And that's like the two forms, like one's more narrative storytelling, and then the other one's more documentary, news oriented. And so like we were doing the news stories, and that's great. And like I'm just not a news person, but they had a segment called Character Ed. And like during that time, I guess the government or whoever it was mandating all the public schools to showcase one character trait per month or per week or something. And like it was the mass communications department to put it out, the information or whatever. And so like it could be like just a slide. And during the news, whenever the mass comm team put their news out, they could read the slide or whatever. But we decided to instead make it more of like a character. So like there was this guy named Ed, and he was character Ed. And so he would have like a character trait each month or whatever. And so that was where I really got to kind of flex my creative muscle and kind of put it all together, and make like a little mini narrative. And so that was probably really the genesis of me wanting to do this a lot. So then
How behind the scenes were you on that, as far as like how much of that was your creativity and your idea, or was it more of a team effort, or was there someone else that was like, oh, it was their brainchild, I just got to make it happen?
I don't remember. I think it was more. It was probably a combination of everybody. But that was a time when Napoleon Dynamite was really big as well, and so that was like kind of who character Ed was based off of, was Napoleon Dynamite. And so like it was a very small mass comm team, and so we didn't have anybody from theater. So like I had to play character Ed, and then like I also had to run the camera, and so it was kind of like double duty. And so you kind of got to be both pieces. Loved
Well,
loved working in front of the camera, but I'd much rather be behind it.
I don't want to jump ahead too much, but I guess I'm going to go ahead and say this. Looking at
Mm-hmm.
some of the pictures that I was going through your Facebook and Instagram,
Oh, you can
maybe a
see my
little.
Facebook.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
I got locked out of it. I can't get back
Oh,
in.
today or in a,
No, like 2 years ago. I've not been able to get back in. They won't let me back in. So if you see it, like, and the guy's still there, tell him like I'd love to come back. It'd
yeah,
be
I'll
nice.
tell him. My
Cool.
wife lost her Instagram account like that a while back. Some lady in the middle of Asia, I think, controls it now. But anyway, as I was looking at your pictures, I noticed a striking similarity to you and Napoleon Dynamite. At the time, you
Yeah.
had sort of that shaggy hair.
Yeah.
There were definitely some facial expressions that seemed to pair well with him.
Oh
And
yeah.
then I see you do the comparison. First, you dressed up as Napoleon with the
Mm-hmm.
Vote for Pedro shirt. And then
Mm-hmm.
on top of that, you did a picture where it was you and the actor sort of
Oh yeah.
head to
Yeah.
head. So, yeah,
I got it so much that I was like, all right, I'm just gonna give in. I'm just gonna
you got
go
to
for it.
embrace it. Yeah, got to embrace it, man.
That
Definitely.
was what it
Well,
was.
let me throw something on here real quick. So this is your
Oh yeah.
old YouTube channel, which I really enjoyed going back and looking at some of this stuff. It's really neat to see, and I have great respect for, first of all, the work that you do now. I
Oh yeah.
haven't said that yet, so let me go ahead and say that. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
I thought the audio was muted, but I love what you do now. What you deliver, from what I've seen, is an extremely professional look. It's clean. You shoot on high end cameras, reds predominantly, what I've seen, but I love to see where people came from.
Yeah.
And
That's definitely where I
and
came from.
this is it's such great stuff to be able to go back and see. So I encourage you to sort of like keep this stuff out there. I don't know if you're like, oh my gosh, I got to take that down,
Oh
but
no.
I think the stuff you've done, and even, especially for people that are up and coming, I come from an educational background. I taught this kind of stuff as a marketing teacher, and then ended up moving into it myself because I sort of fell in love with it. And now I work for the school system doing video and photography here in Shelby County. But like this kind of stuff I would use to show my students, saying, look at where you are now,
Yeah.
and look at where you want to be. Now find somebody where you want to be, like find that somebody at that level, and then look at where they started. And unfortunately, a lot of us decide to hide our old stuff. But I think your old stuff, first of all, shows your creativity, your willingness to sort of put yourself out there. And then on top of it, we can see the growth in technology, but also the growth in skills and the growth in like storytelling in general. So
Yeah.
props
And I think
all
on
around.
one of those, you actually have a character ed video. Where was it? The Thompson character ed, actually, down to the right. You
Oh
see
yeah,
that?
yeah.
So that would have been character ed, and like this would be like the Napoleon Dynamite Phil. Wait for the dance. I think there's a dance in there. Yep, there it is.
Nice. And this was at Thompson High School?
Yeah, way back in the day when they only
Yeah.
had the one building before it was Thompson.
Right.
It's like
Yeah.
it's
Well,
huge now.
my office is in the old Thompson Middle School, which it's in
Oh yeah,
Alabaster, but yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's cool, man. Well, this is great. I love the fact that, like I said, that you have it out there. Obviously, we'll talk some more about your current work, but I love seeing your old stuff. So that's cool.
Yeah. Now I'm not going to take it down. There's nothing to be ashamed of. It's like you said, it's a growing process, and so it's there for my kids. Honestly, like I leave it there so they can have something to go back and look at Dad and be like, "Dad, you were nuts." I'm like, yeah, I was. So yeah.
There you go.
So we wrap up high school. I get to Troy, and they don't really have a I don't know what you call it, like a film department, and so I did mass comm there as well, mainly because like they gave me a scholarship, and I mean you got to go where the money is. My parents didn't have the funds to make it happen, which is totally fine. And so I went through and did the mass comm. That's where, and then like you see that there was some stuff that I was doing on the side just for fun. We had a one every time the teacher was like, you can either do a presentation or you can make a video for extra credit. Always went with the video, just because it's totally in the wheelhouse. So went there, did had a minor in graphic design, and graduated. And the whole time I was there, I was actually on top of doing this, working for ESPN. I was a, what do you want to call it? A grip or a utility? They call it utility. So I ran behind the cameras and like would cable wrangle everything for them. And then after graduating, I had like two different routes that I went at the same time. On one side, I had one of the camera guys who I would go to church with. He was like, "Hey, if you really want to make this a thing, you need to not worry about being a camera operator. You need to go into instant replay." And so I went to, well, I'll pause that. So that's what he said. Then the other route was I came back and had like a temp job working for AT&T, and I started working for a what's it called, a small independent film company here in town. I don't think they're around anymore, Crossing Hollow Films. And I was a PA for them. And then I also did some like After Effects, special effects work when they needed it. And I started working for him or for them for a bit. And it
How
was
old
one of
were
those,
you about then?
probably like 21, 22 ish. Um, and so like I was working for him, and it was kind of one of those things where it's like you're not getting paid. It's not like a monthly, like true W-2 employee environment. And so we got to a point where he's like, "Hey, you've been working really hard. I probably should pay you. What do you want to do with your life?" And I was like, and so I told him about ESPN. At this time, I'm actually dating my wife, or dating my soon-to-be wife, and I haven't proposed to her. But I did start putting money down on a ring, so I'm trying to pay that off. And he's like, "Okay, look, what if I do two things for you? I finish paying off your ring, and I send you to EVS school, which is instant replay, and in New Jersey, and I'll take care of everything, and that can be kind of how I pay you. And I was like, that's great. Like, if you pay for the ring, I can ask my wife to marry me. If you pay for the EVS school, then I automatically now have like some source of income. So that's what he did, and I went to New Jersey and went to EVS school. Then I came back, paid off the ring, proposed to my wife the next like week, and just started Air 7 Media all on my own. All of this happening at the same time that I'm still doing ESPN and doing instant replay for all the sporting events. So like I have my two hats that I'm constantly wearing. So that's kind of where things I guess kind of ended. And then like when we get to COVID, ESPN was like the one that was the main breadwinner, and I was on the road. I mean, my wife may argue with me, but I was on the road probably 4 to 5 days a week. And so like I was only home very, very minimal. And it was one thing when we didn't have kids, but when we had kids, then it started making it even super stressful. So as soon as COVID hit, like all of that went away, gone, completely gone. And like I had to still provide for the family. So she was a teacher. And so she came home. And I was like, well, Air 7, here we go. And so cranked it up, and then that's where everything started flowing. So started working for myself, and that became the main breadwinner. And so now that COVID's kind of over and we've somewhat gotten back to normal, even though ESPN's come back, like I am not willing to go hardcore on the road as I was, just because, man, after being together with family for so long, it was just really hard to, it would be really hard to give that up. And now we have a second. So like it gets really tough if you're one parent trying to parent two. I mean, I have crazy respect for single moms out there. Like I have no idea how you do it.
Yeah, I'm not a single mom. My wife and I we're together, but
Mm-hmm.
we have 4 kids, and so
Mm,
I don't know how I don't know how
bro,
people do it. I mean, we're outnumbered all the time, and
you play in
thankfully at
zone.
this yeah, thankfully at this point they're much older and much more independent. We have twins that are 16, and then we've got 11 and 9. So
So you had the twins, and then
yeah,
you went back, and you were like, "Nah, I'm not done." Had a
you know I've
third, like, "Nah, we need one more."
I think I had plans, my wife had plans, and then there was this other plan. I guess you'd say like God had another plan,
Mm-hmm.
and his won out. So
Always.
mine got surpassed by my wife's plan, and then God's plan surpassed both of ours. So here we
Well,
are.
good.
But we're
It
we're
always ends up like
fortunate.
it's
Very
supposed to.
There you go. There you go. But let's talk a little bit about this ESPN time. I think that's really interesting,
Mm-hmm.
in part because I think a lot of people almost would aspire to do that. I
Mm-hmm.
think especially a lot of young people. So talk a little bit about sort of the good to that, but then I think you've already alluded to some of the bad. But just
Mm-hmm.
sort of, and we don't have to spend a lot of time on this because I do want to talk about Air 7 and the type of work you do.
Oh
But
yeah.
I just think it'd be good to hear a little bit about the experience with ESPN, the good, the bad, the ugly.
Yeah, yeah. So ESPN's great. It is a lot of fun, and it is a what's the word for it? It's very intense. It's high paced, fast paced, um, and like there is very small room for error because it's live. So like if you make a mess up, everyone sees it. Everybody sees it, and so man, we could get off on a trail here. I don't know if you want to go
Well,
down this trail.
this is what I sort of wonder. Like, I think a lot of people look at sports in general and
Uh huh.
think like fame, at least being around people that are big name people, and then
Mm-hmm.
money.
Mm-hmm.
Those are probably like big fame, big money.
Mm-hmm.
That's the idea.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the reality of it?
I mean, you don't know who I am, so I mean, there's no fame there. But as far as like being around those people, yeah, I mean, you're around those people all the time. Now, you're not going to become like best friends with them, like out of the gate. Like, in fact, you get is very shunned if you try to ask for a photo or any kind of autograph or anything like that. So usually that kind of stuff has to happen organically. So like if you're on one of those crews and you're there every week and they start coming in the truck, or they start walking up to you if you're a camera operator and they talk to you, then that kind of stuff can happen all on its own. But you're not supposed to like walk up. So I mean, you are around them, but it doesn't mean like you're best friends with them. Money's good as long as you're willing to work and travel. So like, just to give you a genesis, and this may be something you want to cut out just because I don't know that you really care to know all this. But back in the day, there was lots and lots and lots and lots of money to be made in live TV, especially here in the South. SEC, big money. Well, as things have churned and turned, the machine that is ESPN, they have to get content out, like lots and lots of content, and they don't necessarily always have the budget to have everybody on location. Because I mean, when a normal show that you're watching most of the time on TV, like if it's a big production, CBS, Fox, all of them, they have to have a truck on location that has to either have a satellite truck, or you're sending stuff down fiber, and fiber is like something that's kind of recent. And so when in that truck you have a director, a producer, a technical director, what they call a TD, you have an ops producer, you have a graphics, you have a bug assist, you have a V1, which is a video, you have a V2, you have an A1, you have an A2, you have an EVS operator, you have an EVSRO, and that's like just a minimum. Like that's not even the maximum. Like that's just kind of, and then you've got all your camera operators depending on how many people are out there, plus the rental of the truck. So I mean, like, it gets to be very expensive. And like, these baseball games that are happening in Tuscaloosa or in Auburn or, wherever, Mississippi State, like they're not always big profile games. So they don't have the money to put behind it. But back in the day, they used to have to, because that was the only way to get them on. Well, now they've started a thing where they have students who they have production. What do you want to call it? They're not called production. They're called I don't know. They have rooms where they run all of this on their own. Now, it's not the best. By far, it's not the best. But if it's on an app and we're watching it on ESPN Plus, I mean, you're just happy to see it. And so like you may have cameras whipping before they cut away, or you may have a graphic that comes up that has nothing to do with the person you're seeing, or the colors may be off on the cameras or whatever. But these students are getting reps, and it's getting on television, and the network, the ESPN or whoever, they don't have to pay a whole lot. So like it's really easy now for if you want to find an avenue to get in. But I don't know. I mean, like it used to be really hard. Like you had to like know somebody. You had to like, basically wait around the truck, say, "Hey, man, can I help you? Can I help you wrap cables?" But now it's like if you go to any SEC school or any ACC school, they're going to have a production crew that you can sync up with and essentially get the reps. And they'll have real directors and real ESPN producers that come in, and they'll walk hand in hand with everybody to get the show across the line. But yeah, you end up having almost an in if you really want it, and so you could get a job at Bristol or Charlotte really quick if that's what you want. But like that's its own thing. Like there's the technology is changing a lot in that industry. You have an EVS, you have dream catchers. I mean, and all those do a great job, but like one is old school. Like you've got the old guys who are like, this is the only way it's supposed to be done. It can be done no other way. And then you have the young bucks that are like, oh no, this is really great because I can zoom in and I can do this. And the old guys are like, that's not how it's done. It's like, so I mean, all of this will eventually marry up, and we'll have I guess a single path forward when it comes to all the different tech. But like right now, it's if you want in, you can get in. Like it is not hard.
It's interesting because like some of what you're describing, we're seeing at the high school level.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because like I manage. So one of the parts of my job is to help teachers at all of our high schools, like be able to teach some of video and photography kind of stuff. And one of the things since COVID, live streaming events has become more expected, or at least more
Oh,
acceptable and even
dude.
encouraged. And so like my one of my jobs is to help teachers and schools figure out, well, how can we live stream our baseball games or our football
Hmm.
games?
Hmm.
And there's whole businesses now that have built up around this that sell like AI controlled cameras. They've got
Oh
our
man.
stadiums now. I think most of our stadiums and often a lot of times our gyms have this like housing that has like six
Hmm.
cameras in it, and it strings the image together and just sort of follows the action.
Hmm.
And it's completely unmanned. So I can imagine seeing that at the high school level. I
Hmm.
can only imagine now what's going to be at the college or even at the
Yeah.
pro level.
So don't tell any of the camera guys about that because they will freak out.
I can,
They always think the sky is falling, and it's like, this is it. This is my last show. Like, I'll never work again because I'm going to be replaced by a robot. And it's like, I mean, yeah, but if you learn how to work the robot, then there's a place for you. So I mean, like, you can either like freak out and be scared all the time and run around like the sky is falling, or you can find a way to adapt and just know that change is coming and there's a way to embrace it and be a part of it. But I mean, I love, my wife was a principal at a school, and they had that for they only had basketball as one of their sports, but
yeah.
they had that like super huge 4K camera that has like super wide panoramic, and it would automatically follow the basketball players down, and it would even zoom in or zoom
Hmm.
out, and it was great. And like the fun thing or the crazy thing about that is like that's the worst that technology will ever be. Like, it's only going to get better. And so
Yeah.
like I know that that's coming. Now, I don't know how well it'll be at replay, but it's going to happen. I mean, like, and if it does, like, kudos. Like, go for it. Like,
Yeah.
I'm all for it. If you can make it more efficient and cheaper and it be a better product, like, then you absolutely should. But like, ESPN was always really afraid to let students handle things. But when COVID came around, it kind of gave them a blank check. They can try whatever they want. And so
Yeah.
they send these things called fly packs to all the announcers, and so the announcers were actually doing all the announcing from their home, so they didn't have to go on the road. Well, then it's like, well, that works. So now for these lower profile games, we don't have to send these announcers out to the show. We'll just set up a mini studio at their house, and then they can just dial in and do as many games as we need them to. Like, as opposed to having to have them fly to all these different locations in multiple days. Like, they could do 3 or 4 games a day if they needed to, and
Yeah.
like.
COVID showed us there's room for efficiency, and
Mhm.
there's even allowance for like doing things differently for the sake of efficiency.
Oh
Definitely.
yeah. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, and it's wild. Like, it's the Wild West out there. That said, like, I really do enjoy doing what I do for ESPN. It's a lot of fun. Like, I love live because it is an adrenaline rush, and you have to be on point. And it's like, I mean, your fingers are moving so fast because like what I do an instant replay is not just rewinding and slowly playing it back. Now, that is definitely one thing that I do, but also we're trimming and we're clipping anything that comes in. So like in where I'm sitting, like, I'll have like, you know, 12 or 13 screens up in front of me so I can see all the cameras that are coming into my box. And so when a play happens, I set an in and an out point, and then I clip it. And as soon as I clip it, I have clipped, 12 different cameras. So now if I want to go back and build a package or a playlist or whatever you want to call it on that one play, like, it takes me no time at all. Like, so like, for instance, like a home run package, like that would, as soon as the guy makes it to home plate, I can have an entire package ready in 5 seconds that has like the front
Wow.
end, the back end, and his whole play. So before we go to break, you can see the crack of the bat, you can see the ball going over, and you can see him running across home plate as the guys jump on top of him. I mean, and it's
And
like
that might
that
involve
fast.
like 5 or 6 cameras.
Yeah, right. And so it's like I clip them all, and then I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then they're like, "All right, you ready?" It's like, "Yep, here we go, play." And then then next. I mean, it's very fun. Like, and it's wild to be a part of it. And like you said, like, no one really knows what's happening behind the scenes. They just see, oh, this is really cool, but
Yeah.
it's like an anthill in there. Like, there's just so many people moving around.
That's really cool. It's cool to get the perspective of somebody doing it. I mean, I think of video editing. I've done live, but I've never
Hmm.
done live with replay, and just thinking of how you're able to do that so quickly. But also, I can imagine your experience in just editing.
Hmm.
I guess one way or the other. Either the experience with ESPN helps you in editing, or the experience editing helps you with ESPN.
Probably
That
both.
sounds pretty
I will
interesting.
say that like after doing ESPN for so long, like it has actually sped up my other post production stuff, just
Hmm.
because like you move so quick, and I will say like having something in front of you that operates like the panel that I use makes it really easy to go through all of my footage and cull everything and get everything on the timeline, and like that like muscle memory of like in out enter like kind of comes from the EVS ESPN world.
Have you ever put something out? I mean, maybe it was just an angle. You're like, oh, I missed that. Like this angle would have been so much better.
Well, like actually that happens all the time. But like sometimes you make mess ups and they make error. And like people at home may not see it or have any idea, but like for me, I'll give you an example. So in let me see. In my world, we have these things called it's called a retease and a rollout. So a retease is going to be something that like shows everything that's happened up to this point, right? But it's like usually cut to music. It's really fast paced, and that happens for football. It happens at the beginning of the third quarter, like right as we come into the third quarter. And then for other things, it happens, and like the fourth or whatever. Um, but like on this one instance, I was working the national championship for gymnastics, and I had built a retease. It was killer. We had this commercial music. It was so fast. It was fun. And like a retease, you're allowed to be funny and you're allowed to have fun and excitement because like it's just like if you just tuned in and you don't know what happened, you're allowed to it's like, oh yeah, this is exciting. Like I want to tune in and watch. A rollout is supposed to be more emotional, like, oh, that was really great. Like, oh, we did a good job. Everybody high five, slow mo shots all around. So I built a retease, and as happens, something happened, and they're like, "We're not going to be able to get to the retease." Like that's kind of our motto: you build it, and no one will watch it. Like that's just kind of
Mm,
how it happens. Like I build so many packages, and nobody ever sees them.
that's
And this was
painful.
just part of it, man. Like you're not allowed to be emotional. Like you just got to get through it. Don't worry about it. And so I built this retease. It was awesome. It was fire. And they were like, can't use it. It's not going to happen. I was like, okay, we're just moving on. Here we go. And this was like for the gymnastics, like I said. So you have all these different girls who are all there, and they all have all their funny things that they do, just to kind of pep each other up. And the one of the last shots they had, I don't know if you remember, there was a song that was really popular where at the end they would always have somebody in a horse head like shaking this horse head
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so like I had that at the end of the retease because it was funny. Well, we are now the show's over. We're going off air, but we're throwing from our show to Sports Center. So we're gonna be in Sports Center up on their big screen as the people are talking, about us. Like so it's the last thing. So they're like, well, you have to build a rollout. And at this point they had said they didn't need a rollout. We're just gonna get off air and go to break. And they're like, just repurpose the retease. So I was like, it's too short. Like, we'll just open it up. So I go through and I open up all these clips. So they're all just, we call it really fat. So like, it's easy. Like I'll just push through. So each time they get on a clip, the producer's in my ear saying, and push and push. And so it's automatically dissolving to the next clip. So I built it, and like the producer can't see what's coming. He only sees how many shots are left in the playlist. And so he's yelling, push, 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 push. And the last shot was the horse head, and she was shaking the horse head, and I got in so much trouble because that was the last shot. And the girl who was in charge at the time came back, and I'm like, listen, I am so sorry. Like I didn't know like that was happening. Like it'll never happen again. She's like, did you learn anything? I said, yeah, don't put a horse head on Sports Center. And she said, okay, great, don't ever do that shit again. And then she walked away. And so like that, that happens, and you just like you learn from it and you move on. And every now and then when we go back, they'll bring the horse head back out, and it's like, oh no, I'm not going to
That's
do that
awesome.
again.
Hearing your process and knowing video editing, it sounds almost like even these you called it a call out and a
Roll out and a retease.
rollout and a retease.
Mm-hmm.
those sound like they're almost a video that you've edited, but at the same time, the way you're saying that push, it almost sounds like you're live editing it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So imagine you've got a timeline, right? And each clip is, we'll say 30 seconds, right? You like the end and you have no idea where the 30 seconds is going to end, but you know we'll say the first 5 seconds is good, right? If you have them, that would be called a fat clip in our world. Because like if we're building a retease, you're building a rollout, like usually clips are like 3 or 4 seconds long, like, and that's really long. So like I'll leave it fat, and basically it almost becomes sort of like a slideshow. So on my editor, like I say the editor, the EVS, like it's built a playlist, and there's automatically a 4 frame dissolve or 6 frame dissolve or whatever. And when they say next, if I hit it, it'll automatically dissolve to the next clip. And so like in that instance, they're saying next, or push. They say push, but the controller says next. So they say push, push, push. And so you're just pushing through those clips. Now, most of the time, it's not built like that. It was just in that instance because it was so fast paced, and they're like, we got to have something. And so I just had to make it that way. But most of the time, you build it and it just times out.
Yeah. That's really cool. It sounds just because I think of editing and then exporting a video, but you're basically doing the editing and the export. There's no export. It's just playing it live.
You watching it is it exporting. So I
Wow.
mean, you watch it at home, yeah. And it's crazy how fast it works. I mean, like you're recording to, I mean, basically a huge raid. And like every raid has its own camera. And I mean, it's real time. So I mean, like I'm as soon as it happens, it's ready to go. Like I can show it to you again. It's like there's no lag or whatever. And you want to talk about magic, like that's some EVS magic.
That sounds really cool. All right. Well, listen, I don't want to take up too much of your time. I want to be cognizant of that. I think that I said that
Yeah,
probably
that's the right word.
not correctly. Okay. But I want to make sure that we go through some of the stuff, and I do want to talk, hopefully a decent bit about Air 7 Media.
Sure.
So let's move on. I did already get you to tell about your journey. This bottom picture here, where you're staring so like
Yeah, dude.
emotionally into the camera, was the one that I really first saw, and I was like, he has a Napoleon Dynamite kind of look.
Yeah,
And then
dog.
the more I dug through, I was like, wait a minute, he embraces this look. But talk a little bit about these top pictures. If you remember where any context to them, I would love to know it.
Yeah. So the very top one where I'm pointing out at the ocean, that was when we were doing a shoot for Hoffman Media. I think it was, they called it a Taste of Louisiana. And like we went to all these different restaurants in Louisiana and interviewed the chefs that cooked there. And then we shot around the region. And then they actually came to Birmingham and they did like a Louisiana takeover. And so they went to different restaurants, and these chefs would cook at these different restaurants. And if you were you could like go to any of the restaurants and you'd get a taste of Louisiana. And we shot a bunch of videos to accompany. It was a lot of fun, and that was a really good use, I feel like, for Hoffman of the video production stuff.
The camera looks a little odd in that one.
Well, it's
Like
a 5D.
oh, okay, okay. And I'm assuming your shoulders blocking the main 5D, but it
No.
looks even.
The 5D is actually on the tripod. It's in I can't remember the name of the people that make the cage, but it was like like that would be the camera, and then the thing that my shoulders blocking is actually the EVF that I would be looking into.
Okay. All right. When I saw this setup, because I feel like I looked at, I think I may have it in here later, and I'll reference it again whenever we see it, if it's in here. But I felt like I was looking at some of the pictures, and I was like, it looks like a rig without a camera on it. But
Yeah.
maybe it's just that the camera was
No, it's tiny.
more
I mean,
hidden. So
it's the 5D. You know what the 5D is,
right.
right? The
Yeah. Yeah.
like
5D. I'm assuming it was like a Mark III or 4.
I think
Yeah.
it was a Mark III at the time.
Yeah.
Or it
Yeah. I
may
know
have been.
Mark II was the one that really changed video for a lot of
Oh
people
yeah,
because it was the first like DSLR that had really good video
interchangeable
specs.
lens.
So
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. So
big time.
all right, what about this other one with the looks like you've got is it called an easy rig?
Uh-huh. And so
Yeah.
we are shooting so that's me. The guy next to me is Daniel Phillips. He He works at Electro Market or Electro Market or Electromagnetic Marketing. And we are actually there filming for another agency here in town called Blue, and that is in Maine. We are filming right off the coast, overlooking the Atlantic in that shot.
I think
Shooting.
Dustin went with you on this one, didn't he?
No, he went on another time. So this was the very
Okay.
first time we went. There were two Machias Maine campaigns. This was the first one, and then Dustin went back with us on the second one, and then that was really great. That third
Yeah.
picture, I feel like, is when we were in North Carolina. That looks like North Carolina background. I feel like there's a rock around there somewhere. I don't know.
Probably. It was a tight shot, but there were other photos I think that went with it. And I think I do remember you sort of being in the midst of some rocks at one
Yeah,
point.
yeah.
Yeah.
My
Okay.
my I think my now wife took that picture back
Yeah.
then.
Yeah. Well, I love the
Good times.
motion blur. I
Oh yeah,
mean,
dude.
nothing's better than a good little motion blur in a
That's like
photo.
iPhone 3G or something. Old school.
High quality. All
High
right.
quality.
So I want to hear about your work currently. So I've got on here just basically your current Instagram
Mm-hmm.
grid.
They're
But
good photos.
tell me what tell me what Air 7 Media does. I think I know one probably the first place that I saw you was working with Tom Cox with
Thomas?
Mill. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I knew him as Tom back in high school and so
Oh,
in
okay. He
middle
changed his
school. So
name.
yeah, he went under Tom for. I mean, the whole time I knew him. We went to church together at North Highlands Baptist in Hueytown,
Okay.
and also went to. I think he was 2 years older than me, so he's my sister's age. He and
Okay.
my sister were friends. But anyway, Thomas,
Mm-hmm.
with his company MillFit, I know that you shot some stuff for him
Mm-hmm.
and with that company as well as I think Table and Time. But that's
Mm-hmm.
my first experience with you, and then I've just sort of followed you on social media since. But tell me a little bit of what Air 7 Media does. Especially the idea of you changing over and going full time since COVID. I'd love to know more about that journey and that process and maybe some of the challenges you faced. That's a lot of information I just threw at you, but
Oh, that's okay. We'll try to.
do
We'll
with it
try
what you
to.
want.
I'll try to work my way through it, and then you let me know if there's any of the questions that I missed.
Perfect.
So Air 7 Media is a video production slash post production company. That said, like we also have a motor crane that we use to if we're going to do like car commercials or running or anything that's going to be fast paced. So like we it's not like we only do our stuff. Like we also work on other people's sets and do other things for other people. We do commercials. We do stuff for I don't know, for corporate like internal stuff, and then we do a lot of like I still do some like news style stuff for like This Is Alabama, and special interest pieces, and then I mean anything and everything in between.
Is there a certain niche that you work in? Is there a certain area? I mean, we talked about uh, Thomas Cox, but like his companies, would you say there's other companies that are similar to his that you primarily work with, or do you work with, you know, a
I will say
variety of companies?
it kind of changes. It just depends on the season. A lot of times I do direct to business or direct to I think that's what it's called, direct to business. But then other times like I'll work through agencies and I'm direct to agency and working on behalf of them. So I mean it just kind of depends. I mean I don't say that there's a niche. We do stuff for so many people. Like I'm sure that I should have a niche because like that's probably the most profitable way to go is find your niche, stick into it, and like get really good at it and go forward. But like that's too boring. Like I'd much rather do a lot of different things and have fun working on all these different projects, you know?
Yeah. When I talked with Aaron and I talked with Harrison Tarabella,
Mm-hmm.
both of them seem to have a little bit of a niche. Harrison does like the travel kind of stuff, especially
Mm-hmm.
with the Overlander.
Mm-hmm.
And then Aaron, his big thing is like nonprofits, which I guess nonprofits can be a niche, but then it also seems like a pretty broad niche at times. But that's why I just asked the question. I didn't know if you had like a specific type of business you normally work with. But I mean, obviously, I think with the ability to work with so many different people, whenever
Hmm.
the need arises, it also allows for you to work with so many different types of clients as
Yeah.
the opportunity arises.
Yeah, and I will say the best client to work for is the one that's paying, and like that's kind of my mo. It's like
Yeah.
if the only thing I don't do is weddings. I do not do weddings. I think weddings are a great place to start and cut your teeth and learn all the things because like it's trial by fire. But I don't do weddings. Like if you wanted me to do a wedding, like it would cost so much that you would not want me to do your wedding.
That's what I've said about a few different things. I can't say that about weddings because I do shoot weddings occasionally.
And like weddings is a great thing, and I
Yeah,
think there's
I
it's
agree.
I mean like beautiful storytelling, like
Yeah,
it is a thing, but you get a photographer who's out there just willy nilly taking shots, doing their thing, and then they deliver all their photos, and then the bride or the mom's like, "Hey, where's the video?" And it's like, well, I mean, like he shot maybe 100, but I'm doing 24 frames a second, and I've got to put a story together and make it beautiful and make it sound great. Like he's just color
yeah,
grading, like that's it. Like
yeah.
I have to do that too, and so it's just like I get, and then they never want to pay. Like, just don't. I don't do weddings. I don't
I
do
get
weddings.
it.
People that do
If you
weddings,
did though, you're gonna charge out. Yeah,
out the
I get
wazoo.
it.
It's my. I don't want to do this price, and if you want to
Yeah.
pay it, like I'll do it, but I don't want to do it.
I think that's probably one of the most important things for a videographer to learn is what am I not willing to do for just my normal price, and
Hmm.
then you decide, well, what would be stupid enough for me not to do it for? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like that you got to find out what is it that you're willing to draw the line at, and how
Yeah.
much is it, or is it going to cost to get you to cross over that line at some
Right. And
point?
then and
So
it's there. Like there's a
yeah.
there's a number, but it's like I do not want to
Yeah.
do weddings.
I get it. I get it. All
I'd
right.
much rather
So
do commercials and documentaries all day long before I have to do.
you mentioned this earlier, and I think we've got to talk about it. Unfortunately, this is the only photo I could find of your car that, and which is weird because I know I've seen it a ton, but I
Hmm.
guess I've seen it in stories more so than in actual posts.
Hmm.
But
You
tell
don't
me
always
about
post
your
it.
car and tell me about the rig that you put on it, because this is something that I think, at least for me, is very unique to Air 7 Media in the kind of Birmingham area video companies that
Hmm.
I see.
Hmm. So that is a Porsche Cayenne S. It is a 2019, and then on top of it is a Moto Crane Radical. Then at the end of it is a Ronin R2 with the Komodo with a DZO 25 to 50 or something, 25 to 55. Uh, yeah, that's the motor crane. So that thing we can go up to 90 miles an hour and we can go full 360, and we can shoot stuff. So it's all nice and stabilized. You get really low. I mean, you can go really low with it. You can go really high with it. You can do some really cool like moves where you move around it and it comes in the front. I mean, it's a lot of fun. So we have done it on top of a Lexus before, but the Porsche is like it's just a much better vehicle because you have way more space for the client, um, and it's like an SUV versus like a tiny sedan, and so like that's the car, and so it's actually a blue car. We got it wrapped matte black and had the rims painted, and just so it's all seamless. So it's zero reflection. Like you have to have it matte. So like if you're driving and it's a bright day, you don't want a reflection hitting it and then jumping onto the car in front of you. So it's
Okay,
got
so
to be matte.
you're justifying
Oh, bro, I'll
probably
justify
what
all day.
I think is the coolest part of the car is the color, just that flat black.
Hmm.
And I love the fact that there's actually rhyme and reason to it, not just that it looks badass,
Listen,
but it
you should
does.
have been there for the conversation when I talked to my wife. I'm like, listen, we have to buy a Porsche Cayenne. She's like, we what? I'm like, and then we're gonna have to wrap it in matte black, and then we're gonna have to paint the rims. She's like, this is not a smart thing, but we have it, and it's wonderful, and she drives it, and she enjoys it. So,
It
I mean,
looks beautiful. It really does. And you put that camera and the rig on it. I mean, it really is a piece of art at that
oh yeah.
point. So props, man. I love it.
Yeah, we're shooting on the 19th out at Oak Mountain, so that should be a lot of fun. We've got a bunch of
I'm
cars
right
there.
here. I'm
Bro,
right
come
here,
out.
man. I live in Helena. I can drive.
Come on. You can ride. I mean, you can for sure take the middle
I
seat because
mean,
we're shooting like a bunch of like. So I have a friend who he has I think it's called, is it Toro? Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Toro, like the yeah,
Like you
like
can
the
like rent your
mower.
cars. No, no, no.
Oh no.
So it's sort of like you can rent your own cars out if people come into town. So like if someone instead of wanted to get like a rental car,
Oh
you
yeah,
can
yeah,
actually rent
yeah,
your
yeah,
car. And like
yeah.
he's got a business where he just has a bunch of cars.
I think
And
I
he's
know who this person is that you're talking about.
was his name start with an R?
Yeah, last name starts with a B.
Yep. So he's
Yep.
coming out and dude, you have to come. You should totally
Yeah,
come.
yeah. We
Um,
used to go. We used to go to church with. I used to go to church with a lot of
you went
people.
to church
So
with
just
everybody.
yeah, I did. We just move around a lot. So you
Yeah.
know.
So
But yeah,
so I went with them. Another side story. I went with them to Africa and
yeah.
when
Their
they
adoption. I watched the video, man.
so I did that.
Yeah, yeah.
That was
I
my video.
saw
So
it.
anyway.
I mean,
Okay.
I saw your video of it. So
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
yeah,
So yeah, so I went
yeah.
with them. So I reached out to him. I'm like, hey man, I need to shoot your cars. Like you've got way too many nice cars for me
Yeah.
not to film them. I mean, not everybody wants to like film their cars, but like he's got a lot of really, really nice cars, you know? And so
Right.
like I mean, I'm sure there is a sect of people out there who want their cars filmed. And if you want
Right.
it filmed, I will film it for you. I'm happy
There
to
you
do
go.
it.
This is a
We can go
commercial
out
right here.
we can go out to Barber. I know the guy. We can rent the track and we can run all day. But R Ryan said,
Yeah.
"Yeah, man, come on out. I'll bring all the cars. You just tell me which ones you want." Like he basically gave me a menu and said, "You pick." And so I was like, "I'll bring them all." So he's bringing a bunch of them out, and we're just going to be filming all day. So
What
yeah,
day
if
is
you
this again?
the 19th,
Okay.
we'll be out there from 8 to 6.
I'm gonna check my calendar, man, and we're gonna make that happen. I'm gonna
Yeah,
figure out how to happen because you got a middle seat with my name on it,
yeah, dog. You can sit in the
and
middle.
maybe
And
a driver's seat,
TV.
maybe a driver's seat. I mean, I'm just saying.
We'll see. We'll see.
I mean, I got my
We'll see.
license.
Yeah, but like if something happens, I
I
just don't
mean,
want you to get in trouble.
I'm insured.
Yeah, but I don't know that I'm insured if you're the one
Oh, that's
driving
true.
it.
That's true. Just
Especially like
hey,
it's like a specialty thing with the camera rig spinning around.
1099 me. I'm
I got
covered
you.
then.
I got you. We'll put you on the payroll real quick.
Exactly. Well, man, seriously, props on the car. I think it looks awesome, and I can only imagine. This is what we need to do because the other van that has a similar kind of look to it would be John Champion.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's got
Champion
the
lighting and
flatline.
grip. Yeah,
Yeah.
dude, we need like a racing thing or something with the two of y'all.
Oh,
The
racing.
cars. I
I
mean, I
mean,
don't know, just in a cool setting. Okay, so we could take the two to
now
Oak
we can
Mountain,
we could take
take
his
it to a
car. Now, what if we
track.
took the van out to Barber's? That would be, and if he could learn to drift it, like that would be sick.
Dude,
I don't
what
know
are
if
you
a
talking
van
about?
can
Learn to
drift.
drift it. I mean, it can. It
Okay,
can if it's
then
done
we'll
right.
film it. Yeah, yeah. Get
Wet
some
the
FPV
track a little
drones in
bit.
there. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. All right. I think we've made a plan. Okay. All right. Let's talk about gear for just a minute. And I know we're like approaching that hour mark, so I apologize. Actually,
No
we're over
worries.
the hour mark. But I always say I'm going to try and keep these to like 40 minutes to an hour, and
Yeah.
then I blow it out of the water every time. So let me know if we're getting into time that you need to be doing something else. But real quick, let's talk gear. I know you said a 5D Mark III or 4 earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So Canon, you obviously have experience with, but it seems like right now you have a special affinity for red.
I love red.
So talk about it. Why do you go red? I'm a Sony shooter, so I shoot. I mean, I've got
Sony's great.
I've got a A7S. I'm sorry, A7C, and then I've got the FX3 that I shoot with professionally.
Mm-hmm.
But what's the deal with red, and why? Like, especially considering the price, what's made you go all in on red?
So reds have gotten a lot cheaper since they originally came out. So the price has come down. Reds, the color science I really like. I mean, we can go Arri. Arri has great color science too. Sony has great color science. Canon has great. I mean, like it's it's apples and I guess apples and oranges. I mean, like what fruit do you want? Like they all look really great at a certain price point. They're all going to be great cameras. So like, there's nothing wrong with shooting Sony. There's nothing wrong with shooting Canon. I just really like Red. I like the raw. I like the ability to shoot it and fix it later if I need to. It's a phenomenal camera, and I will say I'm probably a Red fanboy. Like I just really love the way they look when it shows up on set. Like it's like that's a camera,
Yeah.
that's a camera, and everybody wants to know about it. And like one of the things is they'll tell you like gear doesn't make the shooter. Like the Indian is the one who carries the bow or whatever. Like it's not the arrow, it's the Indian. Well, I'm telling you, there have been multiple times where I've gotten more gigs because of the camera, and it's been like, oh, you have a Red? Then absolutely, let's go.
Yeah.
And like, it's just been one of those things. And like, I totally agree that like, you've got to be good to be able to use the camera, but at a certain level too, the gear legitimizes a lot of stuff. So if you've got good quality gear on set and like 5D, the Sony A7s, like they all do great stuff, but like it's a tiny body. And if you're on a
Yeah.
big commercial shoot and someone sees the tiny body, the client has no idea what they're shooting with. The client has no idea what's necessary. But when they get there and they're like, "Oh, this is it." And you're like, "Well, yeah, but it's going to be a really good shot." And they're like, "Okay, we're paying that much money for that." And it's like, "Yeah, no,
Yeah.
but it's going to be really great." So when you show up, and again, not to say like it's not all the camera, but like the camera is freaking sweet. Like
Yeah.
oh, I love the camera. We just got I say just, we had the Raptor a couple weeks ago, and it is 8K at 120. It's a beautiful
Now,
thing.
do you own your cameras, or do you rent them, or do you do a combination?
Oh no, I own these mothers. I own all of them. I have 3 of them, and I haven't sold them yet. And like, I mean, we're at the place where like I would probably sell the oldest one, but I just really love the cameras.
Yeah.
I can't
Yeah.
let go. It's sort of like I have a I don't know if you can see it. I have a Mac Pro, the trash can, and like there's no reason to have it, but it's like I can't get rid of it because like I mean I don't know that they're ever gonna make one of those again. And so it's like I
Right.
want to, and it's a big chunk of metal. So it's like I'm gonna hold on to it, until I guess I don't know someone makes me throw it away. But
All right. Well, speaking of gear, there's one piece of gear that we need to talk about right over I guess that's your right shoulder.
right here,
Yeah. Yeah.
what you looking at? The
The
one wheel?
one wheel. Yeah.
Oh
I
yeah,
love one wheels, man.
you have a one wheel.
I've got a Pint and an XR.
So that's the XR.
So yeah, so my son and I ride. Well, actually, I've got my 9-year-old daughter also rides with us sometimes.
Oh wow,
Yeah, and
I'm
then
trying
I've
to
got
teach my kids to ride.
come on, dude, do it.
I
I got
used
a,
to.
if
I
you need
used
to
to.
borrow a pint, I got a pint you can borrow. I mean, you're welcome to borrow the XR too, but you can borrow the pint. Pint's good for the kids because it's got that where they back
Smaller.
up and so it's easier to get on and off of it a little bit
Yeah,
with
yeah,
that.
yeah. Yeah, jumping off
But
of the XR is a little difficult. You got to kind of commit, and go
yeah,
for it. If
yeah,
you falter at all, it's gonna
yeah.
take right off.
I've got a little small crew of guys that live in Shelby County that we ride together. Got a couple in the neighborhood that I live in that we ride together sometimes. So not Oak Mountain. I'm sorry. University of Montevallo. Yeah, University of Montevallo. They just opened up a mountain bike training course. It's an old golf course that they've basically converted into a mountain bike course.
Oh wow.
And dude, they've got switchbacks like crazy. They got jumps and little humps. It goes through the fairway. It goes through the woods. It goes through, I mean, just all over the place out there. So you need to get out to Shelby County,
yeah.
and we need to go riding out there. I don't know if you've taken it off road, but that's what we do. We mostly ride mountain bike trails.
I've never taken it off road. I mean, I usually just ride it around here, and we have a camper, so whenever we go camping, I just take it with me, because the kids have bikes, and so like they'll be biking, and I'll just ride that around. Just
Okay,
because.
so you're inviting me to ride in your badass car. I'm inviting you to do mountain bike trails, man. Like
Done.
we need to do that before May.
Okay.
Okay. So
All right.
sometime in March or April.
Done. I'm there.
Okay. Okay. Sorry, I see you're getting messages. Probably people are like,
Well,
"Hey, where are you at right now?"
yeah, I am getting messages. It's my wife, but
Okay. All right.
I
Well,
think
we're
we'll
gonna
be okay.
all right. We're gonna talk about just a couple more things real quick, and then we're gonna wrap up. So,
Dude, you definitely went down a rabbit hole to get those. That's
I
like
did.
that's like the original what was it, the MacBook. And that was like the
Everybody that got that thing, this is what they did with it.
mhm.
Everybody did. I
It's
remember in
great.
school
Photo booth was
whenever.
awesome.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I do have an honest question here. What would you
Okay.
tell this guy if you were able to sit down with him? And I say that like I'm not saying you want to change anything about your life. I mean, I think we all got to where we are for a
Mhm.
reason, and the path we took is what got us there. But I'd love to know what you'd tell just like the next generation, or any advice that you would give to, possibly this guy back
I
when
was
you
gonna say
did these photos.
those are two questions. What advice would you give the next generation, or what advice would I give that guy? Because like those are two separate things completely. Because like
You
I
take
tell
it.
that guy, like, dude, you're gonna get a Porsche, you're gonna marry the girl of your dreams, you're gonna have two incredible children. Like, don't worry, like, don't freak out. Like, everything's gonna be great. Like, when you think things are rough, like, it's like all in God's hands. Like, it's all been taken care of. Like, don't worry about it. But
I
that's what I
think
would tell him.
I think that's beautiful. I think that's something that you need to write on a card to your wife. Something along
I'm
those
just gonna
lines.
send her this podcast and be like, "Hey, I just need you to watch it
Yeah, yeah.
because
Well,
it's different."
obviously. Well, and I think that's cool that obviously you're happy with where you are. And I think you got a lot to be thankful for. I can echo those same sentiments in my life. So,
Yeah.
all right, what would you tell the next generation? Like, what about young people that right now are maybe looking at as a garbage truck drives by my house here?
Oh yeah, garbage
What
day.
would you what would you tell young people that maybe are looking at your experience, maybe your work, either in ESPN or with Air 7 Media, more along the lines of Air 7 Media, maybe? What would you
Mhm.
tell them as they're trying to get started?
I would definitely say embrace change. Like, don't try to find one way and say that's the only way. Like, always be looking at other options or different methods. I would say, as far as a shooter, like, kind of probably going back to that, like, look for other shots. Like, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll shoot what I'm there to do, and then I'll be like, okay, what's one shot that I would never ever want to do or think to do, and then I do that one just because it's a different perspective. It's not something that I normally do, and so it could be super wide, it could be super tight, it could be from behind, from the side profile. I mean, whatever it is, just try something completely different that is not in your wheelhouse and see if it sticks. Like, it may not, but at least
Yeah.
you're getting reps.
I think
Um,
that's a really good question for anyone to ask themselves. Like, what is something that I would never do right now, and let me try that.
mhm.
I'm gonna try that in my next shoot. I think
Oh,
that's a good tip. I appreciate that.
yeah, man. Really low, really tight. Like, those are all my go to. If like it's like, okay, what have I'm safe. I've got all my coverage. I got everything in the shot list. Okay, we have time. Everyone's here. What's another shot that I could get that I would never think to do, and then go for it.
I like it. I like it. All right, let's talk through just last little bit. What's next for Aaron Spigner or Air 7 Media in general?
Hmm.
Number three, is that next?
Oh, no, no, no. My wife would kill me. You talking about kids? You talking about kids
Yeah, yeah,
or more
yeah, yeah.
cameras? Because we'll
No,
always have more cameras.
that's true. That's true. They're a lot easier. They're a lot cheaper to maintain.
Yeah,
So,
they
yeah.
don't have to go to college, and
No,
I'm
no.
yeah. Let's see. For Air 7, I mean, it'd probably be just trying to adapt to the new things that are coming. Like, I mean, I feel like I'm young, but there's already been a whole lot of change. I mean, 9x16, like, that's the thing. Like, I never would have a million years think that I'm gonna be, shooting super wide to be 9x16 safe or turn the camera sideways, but here we are. And do probably I'm trying to generate more uh, social media managing clients. That's probably something. And then there's the potential of like actually hiring somebody full time to be a editor, just because we have so much stuff that's coming in constantly from retainers or from new projects or from old clients or whatever. Like there's just so much. Uh, and then a lot more motor crane, so much more motor crane. I mean, it's just going to be nonstop.
I love it, and I'll be there to witness at least hopefully this month.
Yeah, come on. The 19th. Don't forget.
The 19th, I won't. I'm gonna put it on my calendar before we get off this conversation.
Now, do you think this podcast will come out before then?
Oh,
Because
I
if it
don't
does,
think so.
okay, I don't want anybody showing up on the
Yeah,
19th.
yeah, no,
Not
no,
invited
no.
because
Hey, you know what? I'll make sure it doesn't. But I
okay, cool.
usually do. I usually do 2 weeks in between, and Dustin's is next. So
Hmm.
yours would be 2 weeks after that. So no, I think we're good. I think we're approaching April by then.
So another thing, I completely forgot to mention this, but something new that's coming that I definitely want to be doing is actually more VR filming. So when we were doing gymnastics in Utah, a crew from Meta was there, and they were shooting with a 180 stereoscopic Canon RF lens on the front of a V Raptor, which is the camera that
Yeah.
I own,
Oh
and
wow.
they were using it as like they would put it underneath like the one that I watched was underneath the uneven bars, and so when the girl's doing her dismount, you can look to your left and you see the coach that's like cheering her on, and then you look to the right and you see the judges who are giving the scores, and it's like it's full on. So one of the things we'll be doing on the 19th is I have that lens, and we're going to be shooting some of the motor crane stuff with that lens and editing for VR. And we've got like a Meta, I think it's Meta Quest 3 headset. I'd like to put it into the Vision, but like it's not easy to get your stuff in there yet. So we're gonna be working in the MetaQuest. But like I feel like that's something that's coming. Like you'll be wearing, because I know that's going to be
Yeah.
future. Like everybody's gonna be wearing AR or VR, and like you'll be watching Hulu or Netflix or whatever. And like when an ad comes on, instead of it being on that screen that you have in front of you, the entire world's gonna change, and like you'll be inside of the ad. And so like I kind of want to get ahead of that curve and just be like ready to edit in 360, edit in 180 on the VR stuff. So that's something that I think is next for sure.
That's cool. I think augmented reality. I remember whenever the HoloLens was first shown. Did you ever check that out? That was the Microsoft augmented reality.
No, I
It
kind of
was.
checked
It
out when
was.
they did like the Google Glass thing. That
Oh
was,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I was like,
Well, so HoloLens. This was a while back, man. Because I remember when I was still teaching history, I was showing stuff with the HoloLens, like talking about it in
mhm.
relation to what's to come. But anyway, like anything that can analyze the space you're in and then utilize actual physical objects
Mhm.
that then can be implemented into a video or a video game or something. I mean, that we're there. We're there. It's just a matter of it's a matter of condensing the wearables, you know?
Yeah.
Like right now the wearables are too big still, but they're going to condense those down.
Oh
They're going
yeah.
to make the battery pack smaller. They're going to make the computer processing more compact. And then eventually it is going to be like, glasses or
Mhm.
maybe even one day just contacts that you're put in that allow you to
Yeah, as soon
see
as
this
as
kind of
soon as
stuff.
Apple got on board with it, it's one of those things where like if Apple gets on board, and again, I'm speaking from fanboy because I'm a Red fanboy and an Apple fanboy. But as soon as Apple gets on board, a lot of times you'll see that thing start to gain a lot of momentum. And like up to this point, like you've seen, a lot of people try to do things, and like until it was AR where you could see the outside, it was just kind of like a gimmick. It's kind of like oh yeah, we can watch we can sit courtside and I can see my friends here in this digital little space. Or it was just, I don't know, it just wasn't really a tangible thing. But like wearing the Vision Pro and using it, like it is insane. And then
Yeah.
wearing the Quest, like a lot of those things go together. I feel like Apple's is a little more polished, although there are some quirks to it. Where MetaQuest, like the cameras aren't as quality, or the display on the inside is not as great. But like it's all going to get there. And so knowing that like that's kind of on the forefront on Apple's trajectory or whatever, like I know that that's something I want to start working on. And a hot take, you EV vehicles that have been going down, and Apple was heading in the direction of creating their own EV, and then just recently they have disbanded and like cut ties and said we're not going to do an EV. It's just not right. So like that makes me curious. Is like I wonder how long EVs, if like that's going to be a thing. I mean, obviously, I guess Tesla and Rivian and stuff. I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, I think they've got to move into that stuff more and more. And the idea of self driving, I think still
Oh
it's
yeah.
going to be a thing. It's going to
I mean,
be
I've ridden
it's
in
going
the
to be the
Tesla.
norm.
I really love the tech in the Tesla, but I really love the Porsche, and I love that it's gas. And when I hit
Yeah,
that thing, oh man.
rather. Well, but I mean, I hear that the Teslas, some of those have as much get up and go as
Oh no
you know
joke. No,
the gas powered.
what's the like supercharged one that's a Plaid? The Tesla Plaid is like it's their super, whatever you want to call it, race car, and they're freaking
Yeah.
fast. Oh man. But I just don't know. Like, the fact that Apple jumped out of the EV or said that we're done. It's just very interesting that they. I mean, they're really really smart. So if they
Yeah, but
know, like,
there could be other reasons. It could be that it's just, they didn't see the meshing with what they're currently doing as much. Um, I mean, it may be that it's just too far of a stretch for
mhm,
them to go ahead and go all in on at this point. I mean, they
mhm.
sit on technology a long time too.
That's true.
So
It could come back around, or they
yeah,
could acquire somebody and just make it their own. I was reading
right.
something that they were. I read something about them potentially acquiring Rivian, or like, was it a good idea for them to acquire Rivian or someone like Lucid or, one of these outlier EVs kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't
I
know.
had never even heard of Rivian until my neighbor suddenly showed up with one day.
The truck?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, dude, that was like one of the
yeah,
big ones when it was a truck. It was everybody's like, oh, well, I mean, if
yeah.
it's a truck, then it's like it's viable. Like we can use it. It's not just a sedan.
His company does things with automotive companies, and I think that was one of his clients. And he was one that put in like an early order on one, but I think he got rid of it. He's a gas and diesel kind of guy. Like
Is he
that's
gonna get the Tesla truck?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't
I
know.
heard.
I'll ask him next time. So
I was reading some stuff about those rusting. They've started rusting now, and it's
yeah,
like,
yeah,
oh,
that's what I just saw that in the news the other day. So
yeah.
yeah, it's wild. Well, who inspires you is my next question, and props and roll tide to you. And I'm
Oh, roll
assuming this is
tide.
your son.
It's my son crew.
Yeah, yeah,
Matching
and
J's.
yeah, and I didn't mention Billy yet. Billy's
Oh,
also somebody that I actually work in the school system with his wife, and
oh,
then
okay.
I'm actually recording a voiceover with Billy tomorrow.
Oh, what
So
for?
yeah, it's for I work with 58 Inc.
Okay.
It's like economic development part of Shelby County, so I
Okay.
do that sort of on the side, and they wanted to use like local people for voiceovers and for the work in general, and so
Hmm.
we're doing a video series with them, and Billy's going to be either the voice for all of the videos or at least the first one. We're still trying to decide on that, but
He's a good
he's a
voice.
great guy.
I've used him for some voiceover stuff too.
Well,
But
he
it's
was
like
just
last
saying
second.
he was saying the other day, he was like, I don't know why they want to use me, but yeah, I'm happy to do it. I'm always happy for somebody to pay me. So-
Yeah, that's
but
their best client is the one that's paying.
he's such a great storyteller, and I think he's done voiceover for us in the school system before, and done speaking about napkinisms before, and he's just such a talented guy.
If you want him to give you a good story, and he may have already told you this one, get him to tell you the story about cigars in Cuba. That is,
Okay,
oh, that's a good
I
one.
I haven't heard that one. We may approach that one tomorrow then. So that
Yeah.
sounds probably not one that maybe I need to record. I don't know, but
He'd probably let you record it.
yeah,
It's a
yeah,
man, twists and turns everywhere you go with him.
okay,
Yeah. So people who inspire me, I would say my family for one. They're my why. And then, man, like other creatives, like the people that work with me are usually the ones that really inspire me. Um, like Seth, Eric, Dustin, Daniel. I mean, like Billy. All these guys are incredible at their craft, and like they make me want to be better, just because I know that that's what they want to be. Like they're aspiring to be better, so it's like I don't want to let them down. by not being good enough. So it's like I'm trying to always become better as far as like shooting, directing, editing. I mean, all of it. So it's like the people that I work with in that regard inspire me to be better with my work stuff. But as far as like family, I would say like, my dad inspires me, my father-in-law inspires me, just to want to be a great dad and a great husband. Yeah, man. And then like my brother inspires me to want to have a better walk with Christ, and it's just there's a lot of different, I guess, inspiration out there for me.
Well, so Dustin, I posed this question to him, and he
Hmm.
mentioned two people. He
Okay.
mentioned Seth. I think it's the Sethographer. It's the I don't know Seth's last name. Is it the
Seth
grip guy?
Newell. Yeah, Alec Gripko.
Yeah, Alagripko. That's it. I
Hmm.
know him as Sethographer because I think that's what he goes by on Instagram. Uh,
Oh yeah, yeah. I
yeah.
think it's Sethifer.
Oh, is it Sethifer?
Ah,
I
I
thought it was
thought so.
Sethographer or something
Oh,
like that,
maybe I've
but
been
you may be
reading it
right.
wrong. I
Well,
haven't.
I am very likely the one that reads it wrong. My coworker, he constantly has to correct my reading of things, so
Hmm.
I'm very likely the one that made the mistake. But he mentioned him, and he mentioned you as people that inspire him as a creative. And that has led me to then reach out to you and
Hmm.
get you on this episode. And
Yeah.
so maybe are there like one or two people that you would say, these people really inspire me as creatives, and I think they would be great for you to have on a future episode.
You should definitely have Billy Ivy. He's
I agree with
phenomenal.
that.
You should definitely have Seth. He is a very like he's a man that is cut from a different cloth, and that he's really like wise beyond his years, and like so cool. Like one of the coolest people I know. Like, and he's just so chill. Like he is a calming presence to have on set. Like he's a great guy to have on set because he's always like thinking, brainstorming, of like ways to solve a problem. So he's like someone really chill. Like I would either one of those. And then Daniel Phillips is another really good one. He does a lot of um, missions work, and his company before he worked where he does now was Canvas Bag Media, and his thing was he would only purchase gear and equipment that he could put in a canvas bag because he had to be super nimble to get in and out, depending on the places he would go. And
That's
he
cool.
is, yeah, he's an awesome guy. Um, yeah, no, those I think those three are. I'm trying to think if there's anybody else, but those three I think are really good. Do you? And then Kristen Dober. Do you know her?
I know of her. So you mentioned Seth. Seth, I got to watch in action, and Kristen Dober was I guess the director on site that day.
Mm-hmm.
They actually were shooting a commercial for the Alabama Board of Education,
Mm-hmm.
and it was like recruiting teachers. They did a whole series
Oh,
a
the
couple of
Instagram
years in a
thing.
row. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So, well, I
The
didn't get to see
social.
that one. I got to see the one before that. That was the influencer one that
Oh,
you're talking
okay.
about. That's the one
Yeah,
they
yeah.
did this past year.
Uh-huh.
It was the year before they did one where I can't even remember like the meaning behind it. It was so amazing to get to watch though. I mean, they brought in like video crew from Atlanta, I think, or Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
They had Seth there with Alagrip. They had Kristen. It was all through Big,
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah.
the
Big
I guess
communications.
ad agent. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
but they anyway. So that's how I know of her, is by watching her in action there. I think she was my main point of contact. I was the county person on site.
Ah, okay.
So
You were making
yeah,
sure they didn't
yeah.
break anything.
Yeah, I mean, I was just in awe because it was amazing to watch them. They used one of our local schools here in Calera, so
Oh,
it was
cool.
cool to watch.
Yeah, yeah, she's incredibly talented and gifted. And I mean like there's like in what we do, there's a lot of people, there are a lot of people who like do what they do and only that, right? And so like it's really cool to watch people put like their hat on, which is like this is the one I want to wear. and like they're really good at it. And she's an incredible producer as far as like storytelling and coming up with things and finding a way to make it all work and making sure everybody's cohesive in the work environment and executing. And like that's a huge job, executing. It's, you have all these different creatives, and creatives are great, but they're like cats sometimes and they go everywhere, and you got to have somebody who can bring them back together and be like, okay guys, great ideas, but let's stick to what we're doing. Let's follow through. And she's one of
Yeah.
those who's really good at that.
That's cool. Well, I'll definitely, I appreciate you've given me a list of people to sort of choose from. Billy's got to be on here at some
Billy
point.
absolutely has to.
Yeah.
Like he's
And
a phenomenal storyteller. He's got an incredible history, and like, man, like if I had to
yeah.
build a dream team, Billy's definitely on the dream team. Like 100%. Like it wouldn't even bat an eye at it, cuz he's such a great gifted storyteller and director, and like he's really
Well, and
good.
I had John Champion on at a couple episodes ago,
Mhm.
and so I think the idea of having Seth and getting, because pretty much those are the two big
Mhm.
grip companies, or gaff and grip companies
Yeah.
around. So
And they
or
both
at
do
least locally.
incredible work.
Yeah, yeah, that's cool. All right, I think that's all as far as the conversation goes. At least in my slides, is there something that you're like, man, I really expected him to ask this, or anything that I should have done or brought up about our conversation?
I don't think so. I think you've really hit everything. The only thing I would say, as far as like, we live in a very cool town where there are so many gifted people here that do production and do it really, really well. And I just wish, as we continue to move forward in video production, that more people would continue to source locally versus like going to Nashville or going to Atlanta or going all the way out to California, because like they're all great in their own right, but you've got people that are just as good here in town, and like you should save a buck and hire the people that don't have to drive, and you don't have to put them in a hotel or anything.
Yeah. Well,
We're,
that's
great
been one
place.
of the coolest. That's been one of the coolest things about doing this, and it's moved so much quicker than I ever thought it would, as far as just reaching out to people, but being able to see the incredibly talented people in the Birmingham area. Another person that we didn't talk about is George Edmondson, and I think you're at least familiar with him with Seed Creative out in Tuscaloosa. But Tuscaloosa and Birmingham has so many talented people with great gear, right?
Hmm.
As well as great ideas, great visions, and definitely great executions on the work they do. So, well, Aaron, I really appreciate you being a part of this. I think this conversation for me has been wonderful. Just learning all the stuff that you've sort of experienced and gone through. I love the fact that you brought in that element of the live production with ESPN. I think that's a really
Hmm.
cool experience to sort of learn from. And then the fact that Air 7 Media seems to be doing so well right now. Props to you on that, and to the success you've already had. And I look forward to seeing many more successes to come from you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah.